Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello learners, welcome to the new lecture on understanding digital payments. Till now, we have been understanding the working of the fintech ecosystem. We have also had a look at the fintech hubs. Then, we saw the technologies which enable fintech. Now, let's move into fintech into action. For that, let me start with the most commonly used fintech service, that is digital payments. What all are we going to learn in this lecture? We will be understanding the various types of digital payments. Thereafter, we'll also see that what are the benefits and challenges of digital payments. We'll also have a look at the emerging forms of digital payments. If we want to define that what is a digital payment, we say digital payments are transactions which are made using electronic or online methods, where both the payer and the payee use digital platforms to exchange money. I'll once again read out this definition. What are digital payments? Digital payments are transactions which are made using electronic or online methods. That is, you are using electronic method or an online method, but where both the person who is paying and the person who is receiving this money is using digital platforms for exchanging the money. Digital payments basically means they are cash-free, for protection of consumer rights, transaction, that is payments for goods and services which take place exclusively in a given electronic virtual environment. So, any digital payment which is happening online in a virtual environment is digital payment. Now, these payments can happen online or at physical stores. When we say digital payments, even though we are saying that both the person who is making the payment and the person who is receiving the payment are doing it electronically or digitally. But digital payments can be made, or these transactions can be done online or at physical stores. For example, paying for an order on an e-commerce platform using UPI, your credit cards or your debit card is an example where you making digital payments on an online basis to an online seller. Second example is using digital wallet, a credit card or a mobile banking app at a local grocery store. That is, you go to a local grocery store, it's a physical store, but there you are not paying him or her in cash. You are either using your point of sale transaction, that is either a debit card or a credit card, you are using your digital wallet, or you are using any mobile banking app. So, digital payments do not mean that they will only happen for online transactions. The only thing we are classifying here is that both the payer and the payee are making this payment or receiving this payments in a virtual environment. But these transactions or these payments can be made online or they can be made at physical stores. Now, let us see the digital payment system process. It is a 4-step process. Starts at the initiation. That's the first step. Users start payment through digital platform. Even if you are swiping your debit card at a local grocery store or at the petrol pump, what are you doing? You are initiating this payment. So, user starts payment initially. Then, the payment starts processing. You might have seen when you are going to pay for your petrol at a petrol pump, and if you swipe your card, the machine that is point of sale machine says processing. What is it processing? Processing means it is securing networks. Through secure networks, the processing of transaction takes place. After that, what happens? Authentication. How do we authentify? We put our PIN or we feed the OTP. So authentication takes place so that security measure, the transaction is a verified transaction, so that it is not a fraudulent transaction. After that, when the authentication is made, the funds get transferred electronically. So in 4 steps, the digital payment system process is there. It starts with the initiation, goes to the processing, authentication, and then fund transfer. Now let us see that what are the types of digital payments. The digital payments can be initiated through banks. It can be card-based. It can be wallet or app-based, or emerging forms of digital payments. Now let us understand that what are bank-initiated payments. They can be either through internet banking, net banking as we call them, online banking, where the customer from the bank is given a username, a user ID is given, you create your password, and then you do internet transaction either through RTGS, NEFT or IMPS, depending on the quantum of funds that you are transferring. So the RTGS is a 24/7, but the transactions have to be of high value. IMPS is also 24/7 for low value transaction. But for that, what are we doing? We are logging into our internet banking. The banks have provided us some user ID. We use it, we put in the passwords, and then we initiate the transaction of fund transfer. They can also be a UPI. We already know what is Unified Payment Interface. That is, you are using a scanner from your bank website. You scan the code of the merchant and then you initiate the payment from your bank. The next form is card-based. Card-based means you may be using your debit cards, which are your ATM cards. You may be, when I said that you are making payment at the petrol pump, so you are swiping your debit cards, immediately the money is deducted from your account and it is paid to the seller. Another type of card that we have is the credit card. That is, you make these transactions either online or at the physical store, but the payment for this you make after your statement cycle comes. The difference between debit card and credit card is that debit card transactions are backed by the amount which is there in your own bank account, whereas credit card gives you facility to pay this amount which you are spending today after, let us say, 15 days or at the end of your card payment cycle. But credit cards are not automatically given, unlike debit cards. As soon as we open any bank account, a debit card is issued to us, but a credit card, we apply for it, and depending on our repayment capacity, our credit limit is decided and then we make the transactions. It also gives you the facility of revolving this credit. That is, if it's a large sum of money which you have to pay after the end of the cycle, they give you a facility to pay some minimum balance, and for the rest of the amount, you pay a rate of interest on that balance and then you repay at your own convenience. That is credit card. Another type of a card-based digital payment is through prepaid cards. For example, foreign exchange cards. If you are traveling abroad, banks give you many NBFCs also give you these prepaid forex cards, wherein we can load the foreign currency of the country in which we are traveling. So on the exchange rate, that currency is loaded. It is already a prepaid card. That is, I decide, for example, if I am traveling to another, let us say US, so I decide that in my card I will keep, let us say, $5,000. So I load it from my bank at $5,000. I spend it. When the $5,000 are over, my card balance is over, I will not be able to use it. These are called as prepaid cards. This is just one example. Other type of prepaid cards are also available. These days we see a lot of co-branding of prepaid cards. For example, petrol card is there. Even prepaid cards are used for traveling in metro, wherein you buy the card, you prepay the amount and you just swipe whenever you have to travel. But that is again a prepaid card. And next form of digital payment is through wallets and app-based, wherein digital wallets, that is digital wallets are created and you keep money in the system, in the wallet, and as you keep on making payments, your wallet starts getting, the balance starts getting reduced. Very similar to the wallet which we have with ourselves. So once we keep on spending, the money in the wallet reduces, but here the wallet is a digital wallet. I keep that wallet in an app. That wallet I use whenever I need to make any transaction. Then you also have app-based transactions like Amazon Pay, which may not be a wallet, but you directly add and pay. Then QR code payments are there. You scan the quick response code and make the payment to the merchant. Another type of emerging form of digital payments are cryptocurrencies, for example, bitcoins. So these are also being used, maybe they are not still legalized in India, but abroad, many countries. El Salvador, for example, has legalized transaction in cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies are decentralized currencies which are not backed by any central bank of one country, but people use this currency as a form of digital asset. CBDC, which is central bank currency. Now this currency is backed by the central bank of a country. For example, in India on the pilot basis, RBI has started with the e-rupee. So it is also a form of making payment, but it is not to be confused by the UPI payment. It is rupee which is kept in a digital form. Money is also issued in a digital form and paid also in digital form. And then we have contactless payments. For example, using Internet of Things, which we have seen that how Internet of Things is used to make contactless payments. Now, what are the benefits of these digital payments? From the point of consumers, it means it is very convenient. You do not have to carry cash. It is safer because you can travel without carrying so much cash. Faster transactions because immediately you transfer fund. Similarly, immediately you receive funds. For smaller denomination transactions also, this becomes very easy. It reduces the need for cash which you need to carry, and it also leads to access to a lot of rewards and discounts, which we see when you make digital payments. Many times you get cashbacks. Many times you get discounts when you are using a particular mode of digital payment. So for consumers, it means convenience, faster payments, safer, reduced need for cash, and access to discounts. For business, it means wider reach, lower cost of cash handling, because banks do not, even businesses have to handle a huge amount of cash. So if the cash is automatically or immediately deposited into their bank accounts electronically, for them the cost of cash handling reduces. Better record keeping, because immediately by using the transaction IDs, by using the UTR numbers, the businesses can trace that who has paid, how much it has been paid, how much is credit and how much is debit, and it leads to faster settlement cycles. For the economy, it leads to transparency because everything is virtual. Banks, income tax departments, governments, they come to know that what is happening where, who is spending how much, which businesses are earning how much. So it leads to transparency. It automatically reduced informal economy because cash transactions get reduced. So system becomes more formalized. Greater tax compliances, because by seeing your spending and earning, the tax are automatically assessed. This is particularly true for GST. So greater tax compliances and efficient subsidy transfers through DBTs. The government transfers, the direct benefit transfer of subsidies are only coming through these digital payments. For the governments, as I said, DBT to citizens, whether it is for your scholarships, it is for the farmer subsidies, it is for, let us say, LPG cylinders, automatically these direct benefit transfers goes into the account of the customers, reduces any kind of pilferage, it reduces any kind of, leakages in the system. It also leads to improved monitoring of financial flows, that is in which sector, how the money is flowing, and it reduces leakages in the welfare schemes. Apart from these benefits, certain challenges also arise in digital payment system. Can you think of some before I show you that what are the challenges? Most important challenge is the cyber security risk. As we see, there are increased cases of phishing, fraud, and data breaches, which threaten the consumer trust. So many times we read in the newspaper that so-and-so person was digitally arrested. So-and-so person's credit card, debit card was cloned. The SIM card was cloned, so he did not receive the SIM. He was not receiving any OTPs. Someone else was making financial transactions on his or her behalf. So, cyber security risks are increased because of digital payments, particularly when we are not, when we are not following the guidelines which are issued by RBI time and again. We, click on the wrong links. It leads to a lot of phishing and frauds. Another challenge, particularly in a country like India, is the digital divide. Digital divide means that even though in India there is a large percentage of population which owns smartphones, which uses internet, but in the rural areas, amongst the marginalized population, still the smartphone penetration is limited. Not only this, they are not digitally literate to use them properly. There is also poor internet connectivity in these rural areas, because of which these digital payments do not go through properly. Another challenge is with respect to the regulatory concerns, issues around data privacy. Where is my data being kept? How it is going to be used? That data with my permission is going to be taken or not before this data is used. So issues are there around data privacy. The transaction charges are somewhere charged. For example, merchants sometimes feel very unhappy about it that the merchant discount rate is not there. UPI transactions up to a certain limit are free. So merchants are not getting any benefits for this. So transaction charges, if they're applied to the customers, then customers do not want to be a part of the digital payment. And cross-border interoperability needs careful oversight. Means that it may lead to money laundering as well. For example, we have seen the cases of these betting apps where the government has banned these betting apps because there was a lot of money laundering which was happening through the money which was kept in these betting apps and the money which was being received in these betting apps. Then, challenge is also in the sustainability of these fintechs. UPI transactions, as I mentioned, are free for consumers, raising concerns about how these fintechs are going to make money, how the payment providers are going to make revenue. So that is a very big challenge for these fintechs. Now, as I just showed you that there are various emerging forms of digital payments. Let me just discuss a few of them with you. First is biometric enabled payment, wherein I think we saw in IoT also, that is, it is a digital payment method that verifies users' identity using their unique physical or behavioral characteristics such as fingerprints or facial features to authorize transactions. So, if my fingerprints or my biometrics are being used to authorize any financial transaction, we call it as biometric enabled payment. Biometric payments add an extra layer of security to the payment process because until unless your biometrics are used, the transaction cannot go through. So it makes difficult for the fraudsters to impersonate as legitimate users. because biometrics is unique to each one of us. So if a biometric system is enabled before the digital payment is made, this will reduce the chance of frauds or impersonation by fraudsters. For example, Aadhaar-enabled payment systems, where it is, for example, in rural areas where internet connectivity is low, but someone wants to withdraw money from the bank, or someone wants to deposit this money, or someone wants to take a loan, then using our Aadhaar biometrics, this payment system is enabled by the banking correspondents. So the problem of digital divide gets covered by Aadhaar-enabled payment system. Another very interesting form of the emerging digital payments is the stable coins. What are stable coins? Stable coins are digital tokens that maintain a fixed value by being backed by a reserve or pegged to a fiat currency. So if a digital coin is given to you and the coin is backed by the value of the reserves in that country or the value of the currency of that country, we call it as stable coin. Stable in the word means stable, means that the value remains fixed. It will not keep on fluctuating, but they are digital in nature. Unlike volatile cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or Ethereum, they are engineered to avoid price volatility. We just saw that cryptocurrency is also being used in many countries for the mode of making digital payments. But cryptocurrency's value keeps on fluctuating, because of which it leads to an uncertainty of what is going to be the value in future. But if I want to avoid that uncertainty, stable coins are engineered in such a way that their value is determined by the reserves of that country or the fiat currency of that country. Now, this makes stable coins a very practical tool for payments, remittances, and cross-border transactions. As you might be aware, recently, USA through Genius Act has brought these stable coins into mainstream. Now, these stable coins are of three types. They can be fiat backed. Fiat backed means they are backed by the currency of that country. For example, USDC and USDT, these stable coins are there in US and they are backed by the value of the US dollar. Second is commodity backed stable coin, that the value of this stable coin will be backed or will be determined by the value of the commodity which it is used as a backing. For example, Pax Gold and Tether Gold. Such stable coins take the value of gold to determine their value. So in this case, the commodity backing is of gold. So the value of gold is used to derive the value of this stable coin. Then the third form is crypto collateralized backed. Those coins which are backed by cryptocurrencies. So what happens here is that we have already said that the cryptocurrencies are volatile, but in such kinds of stable coins, the value of stable coins has for example, if the value of the stable coin is, let us say 100, then it is backed by the cryptocurrency of the value of 150. So that even if the value fluctuates, 100 rupees gets or 100 value remains maintained. That is called as crypto collateralized backed. That is, cryptocurrency is kept as a collateral for these stable coins. Because it is volatile, cryptocurrency is volatile, greater amount of cryptocurrency value is backed for a lesser value of stable coin. For example, DAI is an example of crypto collateralized backed stable coin. So in this short lecture, what we understood was that digital payments are backbone of the modern fintech. Their opportunities include inclusion of the people who are out of the system, transparency for the governments, for the business, for the customers and for the economy, and of course, innovation. Challenges remain due to cybersecurity, access gap due to digital divide, and the sustainability of the business models. Why? Because as we have seen, that if all the transactions are free, if the digital payments are completely free, then for the fintechs to sustain, it becomes very difficult. We also understood the concept of stable coins and futuristic digital payments like biometric and CBDCs. We will be discussing CBDCs in detail when we talk about the regulatory framework of fintech in India. So I hope you enjoyed this short lecture video on digital payments. So thank you very much and happy learning.